It doesn't mean that the governor cannot sue. I mean, if he cannot be sued, it doesn't take away his own personal right to sue. But the question is, how, if this is supposed to also help the business of governance, which they say is supposed to also enshrine peer review mechanism and or whatnot. There had been advantages of the Governors Forum before the problems that they had. Would we now say, oh, because of that, let us shelve this body because it is not in tandem with this very debatable part of the Constitution which you've cited?
You see, the Governors Forum has done some good things, like you have said. We are coming from the point of the Constitution. This is Section 1 says this Constitution is supreme. Anything outside of it is null and void. Section 183 is clear. And I said the word shall not. Shall not simply means you cannot do it. You cannot belong to the Nigerian government registered under Part C. The governors belong to the Council of States. They also belong to the National Economic Council. These are statutory bodies where they sit and they can discuss whatever they want to discuss. But let's go forward to what you are saying. I'll come back to that later on. The governors sit down and discuss issues relating to governance at the federal level and all that, which is okay. And now I'm seeing that they're carrying out oversight functions, asking the finance ministry how much you spend, crude oil account and all that. It's a duplication. In the National Assembly, every state has people in the House of Reps, House of Senates. It is their constitutional role to carry out oversight functions. Section 5, subsection 3, 4 talks about the powers of the governor within the sphere of his own state. You cannot have a standing army, a standing group that comes out to stand, to begin to watch the federal government. When you have your members in the House of Reps, every state has members in the House of Senate for the same purpose of oversight functions.
Does it take away their right as Nigerians to ask questions of the finance minister?
They can have, but to have a standing committee called the Governors Forum, registered with the CAC, private, don't forget it's a private body. It's a purely private body. The time you're supposed to use to work for your people, you hold meetings, you hold elections, and then you carry out these functions, it's against the Constitution that we have just read. I didn't make the Constitution. Perhaps that section ought not to have been there.
Perhaps that section is not exactly talking about what you're talking about.
That is what it's talking about. It's very, very clear. I'll read it again. Maybe if we have any doubt. Let me read it again.
I have the copy here, Mr.
No,
Opie,
let me read it
and
again.
I can help you read it out because I don't know. It depends on who
let's take it again.
is reading it.
Let's read it again.
The governor shall not, during the period when he holds office, hold any other executive office.
Executive office.
Exactly.
Yeah, fine.
Or paid employment.
Or.
Yes.
Not and.
Yes.
Or is disjunctive.
Exactly.
Yes.
Paid employment
in any capacity whatsoever.
In any capacity whatsoever.
Yes.
Now, you were saying that word executive office is what, but the governors are already executive in their capacities.
That is one. Any order.
That's what we're saying.
Under the Governors Forum, registered under the CAC, they are holding executive office, together with the one they are holding in their respective
states. Is there a definition? Because sometimes the Constitution also prescribes, you know, what it means by certain parts of the Constitution.
I think
For
it's
instance,
clear. I think the words
does it define in its own, you know, meaning what it means by executive office?
I have already read it out from the Black's Law Dictionary. Any kind of human enterprise where you are in control, you supervise, that's executive. I've just read out the meaning.
And I'm asking if the Constitution also stipulates, because sometimes there are certain meanings. For instance, it was during the certificate saga, we knew that the Constitution also has its own meaning of what it meant by school leaving certificate. You know, so do you think, does the Constitution also prescribe what exactly it means by executive office?
No, but I'll put it this way. When words, the lawyers will tell you that when words are clear and unambiguous, you give them the literary meaning. The executive, I've read out to you from Black's Law Dictionary. When you're in charge of any human enterprise and you are controlled, supervising, you're in active participation, that's executive. You are a governor of a state, that is enough problem. To take on some other thing outside of that, no, it's not allowed under this Constitution.
But it's related to what they're doing.
If I'm bringing something here, the governors are citizens of Nigeria.
Yes.
And the Constitution is believed does not contradict itself, right?
No.
Okay. So let's go back to Section 40 that you read out Section 40. Every person. Now you how did you put it now? You qualified that adjective shall to mean that it's a must. It cannot be toyed with.
Yes.
Every person shall be entitled to assemble freely and associate with other persons. That is the Constitution.
Thank you.
And in particular, he may form or belong to any political party, trade union, or any other association, mark this, for the protection of his interests.
Thank you.
The governor is a citizen of Nigeria.
Thank you.
He has freedom, right, to associate with anybody. He also has, by the Constitution, the freedom to form any group he wants.
Thank you.
To protect his interests. And for them, based on their Constitution, the interest they want to protect is service to Nigerians. So why are you now saying that they're contradicting the Constitution?
Now, I said it before. I said Section 40 is a general provision for everybody's fundamental rights. Fine. Section 183 applies to a specific group of people, the governors.
Does Section 183 negate the fact that the
They
governor
are all
is
subject
in
to the same.
Nigeria?
They are all subject to the same constitution. When a man has several rights or several duties in a constitution, you marry them, you read them in conjunction. You combine a combined reading. A combined reading of Section 40 and Section 183 comes to no other conclusion. That once you become a governor for the 4 years you're in office, your Section 40 becomes subject to Section 183.
So are you saying that, for instance,
Becomes subject
now,
to Section 183.
governors are members of political parties. If they were to hold some positions in their political parties, it will be a problem?
Thank you.
They call
They
them-
can't.
They call them leaders of their
They
party.
cannot. That's the mistake we're making. You put them in, they are put in several positions. This country is not going forward. A lot of people are not working who should be working. For the 4 years you're there, you're supposed to mind that position. That's the meaning of what we're saying. You can imagine how sacrosanct legal proceedings are. But you are exempted from it. So you can face your business.
So for the 4 years that the governor is occupying that office, he's not even supposed to be going for political party meetings?
He can, but not an executive member. You
Hold
don't
on.
carry out executive roles, no. You can't.
I was just wondering, though,
That's the constitution.
the problem that you have, because this is not about them attending meetings, because if it's about meetings, they attend all sorts of meetings. They
Yes.
attend the council meetings at the federal level.
Those are constitutional allowed. They are members of those committee meetings.
Well, how come then that the constitution? But that's not where I'm going to. So I'm not going to go there. But I was just wondering: is the problem you have the fact that this is registered with the CAC? If it was just a meeting of governors, would you have a problem with it?
Now, if it's a one-off, I may not have a problem with it. But you have an organization, by registering it with the CAC, it means that it's a purely private organization.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Now,
assuming, just a moment, sir, are you saying then that assuming this was not incorporated under the CAC and they were meeting constantly, perhaps maybe there's a problem at hand? There was a time when polio was what they were looking at, and they were ensuring that they kicked out polio out of Nigeria, and they had regular meetings to ensure that polio was kicked out. Would you have had a problem with that?
I will answer you by putting it this way. Once you register an organization, you give it breadth, you give it individuality, you give it a legal personality. In law, that association is not seen. No, sorry, you are not seen. That association is seen. You have to manage it, you have to run it. Once you begin to do that, an obligation is on you to carry that thing forward. You can't manage that obligation together with official functions as governor. The Constitution says you can't do it. In an executive, in fact, it says in whatever capacity in executive, you can't.
But the governors are not running it. There's an entire secretariat that runs the Nigeria Governors Forum.
I have read out sections, Article 7. I did not write their constitution. The things I have read out, you can ask yourself whether they constitute executive committee functions or not. I've read out Article 7.
So I'm asking, is the problem that you have with the Nigeria Governors Forum the fact that it is incorporated with the CAC?
I think I've answered that question. I said yes, that's one. And two, that they have a standing, once you register an organization and incorporate it, it becomes an organ that has to be run. That's a secretariat. Elections are held. And even went to court. Over the time you spent in going to court, the resources, the money, and all the effort, it's the time you're supposed to be running your government. And I'm saying no. Constitution, you have. In fact, if you look at the Constitution very well, if a governor has a problem with the federal government, you go to court. Supreme Court takes it on as a court of first instance. But not for you to sit down, team up with fellow governors, and then begin to run elections, begin to run a purely private body, registered on that plan. You can't do it.
Okay. Does the Constitution allow the president of Nigeria to be the president of any other body? Or the chairman of any other body?
This Constitution Section 183 I'm reading about talks about the governors.
No, just since we're talking about governors
I'm not
occupying
aware
a
of
position,
a similar provision on the president.
there's nothing like that on
I'm
the
not
president.
aware. That could be, I'm not aware. But what I'm discussing, what it refers to, it doesn't even refer to local government council chairman, no. It talks
Just for
about
the
the governor,
governors.
yes. I did not frame the constitution.
let's
The
go
framers
back.
of this constitution, that is what they're talking about.
Let's go.